2020, a year the year has been crazy over in the sports world. From the COVID-19 pandemic, which postponed games for 2 months ish, to the Black Lives Matter movement, which at one point during the 2020 season, the NBA Players Association decided that they are not going to play because of a recent shooting. To and also to no NFL preseason, which no NFL preseason. There are so many injuries out there on the field. The first couple of weeks, this year has been scary, and I'll talk to you guys more about that after a short clip, short introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Just to give a little bit of an introduction about me, this is the first ever Sports Status episode on YouTube. I've been doing it on Facebook as well. For some reason, through StreamYard, I'm going to have to upgrade in order to put episodes on YouTube and on Facebook. I'll probably just share it after the show is done. But on today's show, we're going to be covering over a recap of how crazy it has been over in the sports world for the year of 2020, and I'm also going to give my thoughts on how I think the top 5 picks of the 2020 NFL draft should be. So, to go right into it, from the start of the season, we've been going through school, going to work, going to whatever we normally do, just like any normal year. There are 2 wild card games that were being played. There are wild card games that are being played. Vikings and Saints. Saints, like normal, seem to struggle against the Vikings in the playoffs. The Vikings moved on in an overtime matchup, so they moved on. Adam Thielen had his weird incident that because of that incident, the Saints are pretty much done. The Titans shocked everyone and beat the New England Patriots. That wasn't a shock to me now that I looked at it, because the Patriots, they had a quarterback, they had a defense, and they had a coach, but they didn't have any weapons. And Tom Brady has been begging the New England Patriots just to get some weapons. We had the Eagles and the Seattle Seahawks. Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz. He got hurt that game, and the backup came in and took over. Seattle won that game 17-9. And so Seattle moves on. And then the final game, the Houston Texans versus the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo got an early start. touchdown, and it was touchdown off a trick play, and it was field goals in over and over and over. That game also goes into overtime, and Texans took that win. First time in NFL history that the Houston Texans won a game. They come back from a 10-point higher deficit. Not even in playoffs. First time in history that the Texans have came back from a 10-0 deficit. Divisional round. We have Green Bay versus the Seattle Seahawks. Green Bay wins this one 24-20. We thought that this game was going to be a lot like the Kansas City Chiefs game, which I will get back to in a minute. So, Green Bay wins this one 24-20. They move on. The 49ers. It was a competitive game against the Minnesota Vikings. 10-10, and then it was 49ers then on out. They beat the Vikings 27-10. Texans and Chiefs. Texans took an early second quarter lead 24-0. And since that field goal kick at the end of the game, early in that quarter, 51-7 there on out. Then you have the Titans and I'm sorry about that. I forgot to unplug my Echo. Then you have another game that was another comeback game. Another shocker game, I should say. Titans and Baltimore. Titans win this one. Titans win this one on Lamar Jackson. Fun fact. He made it to the end zone. Not the end zone. He made it to the opponent territory every single one of his drives. And he lost that game 24-12. Only one touchdown in that game by Baltimore Ravens, by the way. The rest were field goal kicks. They tried to go for two, but that didn't work. And then conference championship round. Things were where it started to get heated. Packers, like normal, got blown out by the 49ers. It was the one team that they cannot struggle against. They cannot do well against. 49ers move on. Chiefs and Titans. That game was another comeback win for the Chiefs. They were up 24-7, I believe. And the Titans lose this one. So you go on to the Super Bowl. 49ers versus the Chiefs. We all know what happens there. 49ers lose to a comeback again with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They lose this one 31-20. So there's NBA. There's NHL. MLB had just started off with preseason. Things were going fine. This and there and this and there. New York then suddenly gets hit with COVID cases. They started to get hit hard. Really hard. And then it goes to California. A lot of these eastern and western coast states then start to get hit. Then as soon as we know, 3 games were supposed to be played that day. Pelicans and Kings. Nuggets and Mavericks. and the Utah Jazz versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Nuggets and Mavericks were the only game that played that day because Matt, because Rudy Gobert pretty much, there's a joke going around that he pretty much should have gotten Defensive Player of the Year because he shut down all of sports. Shut all of it down with the COVID-19 cases. With this COVID-19 case. And then all of a sudden Donovan Mitchell gets it. Then there was Nuggets and Mavs. Mavs won that game. And look on the owner's face for the Dallas Mavericks. That was a shocker. I mean, it wasn't a shocker, but he was surprised as everyone. Then we then go to Nuggets, a little bit of background behind what happened. A few days beforehand, he started, saying that COVID-19 was a fluke. COVID was it's not real, all this and all that. He then gets it. He gets it and then spreads it to Donovan Mitchell. All these sports leagues, with one exception, gets postponed, gets canceled. XFL stopped for the season because of COVID-19. NHL stops because of COVID-19. MLB canceled the rest of the preseason games. All these leagues got restructured. The one exception is an esports league. Esports football league, I should say. Then we hear the news that XFL is going to be closed. It's shut down and closed because they were struggling financially due to COVID-19. And then suddenly, all these plans, all these restructures with mask mandates and all this kind of stuff in the bubble started off with the MLS. MLS played, that was a success. They played it over in Orlando, Florida, in Disney World. 8 players got hit with COVID-19. And I say that was a success because of what happened with the MLB. Get to that later. NBA was also a success because there nobody, no staff, no personnel, no players got hit with COVID-19. NHL, same way. It was a bubble, except it wasn't Florida. It was over in Canada, between two cities in Canada, Toronto and Edmonton, if I'm correct. Let me get to the MLB, and there was no bubble. There was a format where all of these they play a 60-game schedule in the MLB, and whoever comes out on top, some of these games had to get canceled because of COVID-19. Miami Marlins had to get a couple of games canceled because They had COVID-19 cases, and then finally they went back to playing again. 13 of their staff and personnel at one point started playing, and they had to go down to third string players. Some players that they just recently started to work with. Then that happens. When that happens, they still, however, manage to come out on top. With all these players gone because on injury reserve or COVID-19 reserve, and they still somehow managed to be successful. They were my sleeper team, to be honest, coming in to the MLB. A lot of people were shocked that they were my sleeper team, but they're not going to be as shocked as what I have for the draft list. Stay tuned to find out. We also and then NFL hits. NFL hits. They decided to go zero preseason. No preseason, no Hall of Fame game. There's no Hall of Fame game, and that came to bite them in the butt. Injuries land all over the place, from left to right. San Francisco 49ers by week 2 had 13 players hurt. 13. Now, the Jets, that team that they were playing against, they still only managed to score 17 points against that 49er team. Jets played, and they played the Giants, and all this kind of stuff. Drew Lock got hurt. Gordon Sutton got hurt. Von Miller was hurt before the season even started. And then week 4 hit. The first 2 teams got a bye week, the Steelers and the Titans, because Titans had so many players that were on the COVID-19 case. They had to reschedule all these games because COVID-19 hit. And I think NFL was the least, was probably out of all these leagues, I think the NFL was did probably the honestly probably did the worst because there was no bubble coming into this. And I have said this here, and I've said this on All Sports All Plays. You can check that out after this show's done. I said this. I said they probably should have stick to a bubble format, and and I think they probably should have done 4 games instead of 16. There's way too many fingers for that. 4 games. Actually, I think they should have done 3. I take that back. Because they should have done 1 game for each division. Whoever comes out on top and in second place move on to playoffs. And done kind of like the soccer format in a way, how the MLS did it. I think maybe I'll give you an example of last year. The Broncos were in second seed over in the AFC West, and the Chiefs were first. If they did it like that, then those 2 teams played against each other. Chiefs would probably be the ones to come off top. Chiefs move on, and they play a team that's in that same conference all the way up until we find out who the winner of the AFC side was. NFC, same way. They didn't go with that. They did not go with that. Some of these games had to get rescheduled, and then Broncos and Saints hit where no quarterbacks were being played for the Denver Broncos that game, which was kind of stupid. They probably should reschedule that game because how Roger Goodell what Roger Goodell did to that game. They probably should have. And so Roger Good- and then he came out when the Steelers were playing the Ravens. Steelers and Ravens were scheduled to a different day, by the way. It was scheduled to a different day on a Wednesday. And Roger came out on that and basically avoided that question. What are you doing? If I was having this conversation, if I was making this point on the All Sports All Plays network, I would probably put up the sign and say, warning, rent in progress. I would do it because Roger, the NFL was being dumb for this game. And yeah, I get it. I get it that three of the all of those quarterbacks weren't following COVID-19 guidelines, which that was bad on them, their part. I totally get that. They should have had a different punishment though. Because now Jeff Driscoll gets hit with COVID-19. They could have had it. So I totally get that. I totally get why they didn't play. But if one of those three quarterbacks gets spread and a wide receiver gets hit with COVID-19? What if their head coach gets hit with COVID-19? Or John Elway gets hit with COVID-19? And then they play that game against the Saints, and then the Saints players get hit with COVID-19. That's just dumb. It's dumb in so many ways. The only positive thing, the one and only positive thing about this Saints and Broncos game is that Kendall Hinton threw a complete pass for 13 yards. That's it. That's the only thing that happened that was maybe considered good. Final score of that game was 31-3. It was dumb in so many ways. Jeff, the quarterbacks were just not following COVID-19 protocols. That was dumb. NFL was also dumb in their part. Coaches were also to blame for that game because they should have said that they're going to forfeit playing this game, calling it a veto because they didn't have a quarterback to play. The NFL then comes out with NFL does two things in response. They came up with a Kendall Hinton rule where if you have a dire emergency, any situation where you're not able to play a quarterback, you are allowed to sign a quarterback from off of somebody else's practice squad league. Okay, I get that. That makes perfect sense. But they should have. We wouldn't be in this situation if you just postponed the game to a later date. If you just said, "Oh, okay, let's play on Monday instead," Drew Lock would probably be back. Play on Tuesday, you probably get more quarterbacks back. Play on Wednesday, get more quarterbacks back. You guys did it for the Ravens, so why not us? What makes the situation worse? Browns didn't have any wide receivers to play. Well, they didn't have. They lost 3 of their wide receivers because of COVID-19. So they didn't play against the Jets. They had a quarterback to play. They had their running backs, but they had three receivers that did not play because of COVID-19. Why did you play on Sunday? Why, NFL, did you have the Browns and Jets play on Sunday? It makes no sense whatsoever. The NFL probably is going to be watching this and saying, "Oh, well, I mean, well, it's the Browns and the Jets, so those 2 teams suck, like the Broncos or something like that." Give me a break. Week 17. We're finally here. Week 17. And one more week to play, and then we have playoffs. This is where things start to get exciting. I think probably the best thing the NFL's did this offseason is expand the playoffs. So where there's 7 teams that can go in instead of 6. Because on the AFC side, 8 teams, 8 teams, uh, 8 teams are probably gonna are going to finish off the year with a 10-win record or more. And those 8 teams are one of those 4 teams. Well, one of those 5: Browns, Colts, Titans, Ravens, and Dolphins. Yeah, one of those 5 will not be going to the playoffs. Who will it be? If you're in this comment section, please drop down a comment, and I'll respond as soon as I get it. If you're the Miami Dolphins, the Dolphins have the easiest way of getting in. Either they win and they make it in, or the Browns, Colts, and Titans, probably one of those 3 teams have to lose. Titans are at the number 4 seed because of divisional opponent thing. The Colts, outside of the Titans, Colts are the only ones that can win the division in the AFC South. Texans and Jags have already been eliminated. Again, stick in tune because I have some hot takes about the top 5 picks for the NFL draft. So, going into that, I at first I was going to do the show yesterday, but I'm like, nah, I want to wait to see what happens in Ohio State Clemson game. I want to wait and see what happens. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did because Ohio State came up and just kicked Clemson's butt. Clemson lost this game 42-20. I'm going to double check that score, but I believe that's correct. 42-28. And I think this is going to change how teams are going to make draft picks. So I'm gonna give you 2 different lists. First one, 49-28. I'm mistaken on that. I think this is going to change things a lot. a lot. But I'm going to give you two lists. The first list is going to be of teams of what I think these five teams should do. And no, week 17 of the NFL, that hasn't happened yet. So this list might change. Jags are probably going to be that number one. Jets are probably going to be that number two. So going in, if I were Jacksonville Jaguars, then this is where things stick the same. I think Jacksonville is probably going to draft Trevor Lawrence. And well, actually, I take that back. I think Jacksonville's going to probably draft Justin Fields. I think that's probably what Jacksonville is thinking, because because Justin Fields yesterday, for 28 attempts, 22 of those were complete passes for 385 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. And he also Chase Sherman ran for another touchdown. But that's for something else. Justin Fields is probably going to be at number one pick. But I don't think so. I think Jacksonville should draft Trevor Lawrence, because there's something about Ohio State quarterbacks. When they go into transition to NFL, it doesn't work out that well. They ended up being a draft bust. So I don't think Jacksonville, if I was smart, I would take Trevor Lawrence, because I think Jacksonville really is one quarterback away from being a playoff contender. Jacksonville's quarterback situation was so questionable. Honestly, if I were Jacksonville, I would probably fire that head coach, because I don't know what Jacksonville is thinking in what the quarterback situation there. I'm not sure what Tom Coughlin is thinking there. Number two. This is where things start to get a little bit heated, especially if I had a guest on the show. Fortunately, I couldn't get one, so just me today. New York Jets are probably going to draft quarterback Trevor Lawrence from Clemson. That, or I could see BYU quarterback Zach Wilson. But I don't think they should do that. I seriously don't. I think the Jets should draft Penei Sewell, offensive tackle, from Oregon Ducks. Call me crazy, but I don't think that that Sam Darnold is a bust. I don't. I seriously, if I was smart, if I were the Jets, I would probably draft some of that O-line help, because that is seriously what New York has been struggling with. If I were, I'd probably draft Penei Sewell. I'd probably just blow up that coaching staff. Adam Gase needs to go. Adam Gase is probably going to leave after this game anyways. Adam Gase is probably going to go. Penei Sewell is who I want the Jets to draft. But I don't think the Jets will draft Penei Sewell, and I think they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. The Houston Texans our number 3 pick. But remember, a couple of years ago, in a wild trade, that 2021 first round draft pick was traded to the Miami Dolphins. One of the many reasons why Bill O'Brien had to leave. But that draft pick was traded to Miami. I think Miami, what I think they should do, is draft uh, I think they probably I think what they should do is draft Jalen Waddle from Alabama. In 4 games, Waddle was responsible for 557 yards and 4 touchdowns on 25 catches for an average of 22.28 yards per reception. He entered at was ranked. He entered the game with 4 straight 100-yard receiving games. At the time, Waddle was 4th ranked nationally in receiving yards and 8th ranked yards per catch, entering the 5th game out of the 10-game span that Alabama was playing. So they probably, if I were the Dolphins, probably need some receiver help. They have a really good coach in Brian Flores, which the only thing I don't understand about him is his quarterback situation. I don't understand his thinking behind who should I start for this game or this game or this game. It seems to be working out though, but it is very, very confusing, very questionable. If I were Miami Dolphins, I would probably add that second receiver. They do have Devontae Parker, but I would probably draft a number 2 wide receiver, to give him some help. Atlanta Falcons. Now, this might come as a shocker because after reading a report from 24/7 Sports, the guy who wrote that article might disagree with me. Atlanta Falcons probably should draft Micah Parsons from Pennsylvania State, a defensive tackle. Or sorry, linebacker, excuse me. So Parsons, even though he opted out of the 2020 season, he was amazing in 2019. Parsons decorated his sophomore season. He appeared in 13 games with 12 starts. Amazing. 109 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 4 quarterback hurries, 5 pass breakups, and 4 forced fumbles. Over the time with Atlanta has always been a team ever since Matt Ryan came in the league, which he's been playing for 13 years now. He might be retired, so I understand if Falcons might want to go for a quarterback. If that's the case, they go for a quarterback. I would be happy if they draft Zach Wilson. It's completely understandable, but that's not where they need the most help. Because offense, you have Julia Jones, you have Calvin Ridley, you have Todd Gurley in backfield. They've had throughout the years, they've had all these weapons. They've scored points. But what they've been struggling against is that defense. That defense has been terrible. If I were Atlanta Falcons, I probably would blow that up. Blow that defense up. Now we draft Micah Parsons from Pennsylvania State. Last but not least, now remember, this might change from last week. If I were the Cincinnati Bengals, I would draft Ja'Marr Chase. Ja'Marr Chase, wide receiver from LSU. I say that for one reason. Joe Burrow, his final year, 2019 in college football. They averaged at least 4 touchdowns a game. There was not one game where they scored less than 28 points. Not one. Ja'Marr Chase was part of that LSU team. If I were the Bengals, probably draft him because he has very good connections with Joe Burrow. They've played with each other before. So, Bengals, they're probably going to draft him. Last final thing before I give this a close for now. 2020 playoff picture. What do I think is going to happen? Now, this is a hot take. I've brought this up over on All Sports All Plays Network. This is a hot take. Some of these higher seeding picks, there's 2 exceptions. Some of these higher seeding picks, I can see them going first round. Leaving first round. Like being out. Eliminating. Gone. Bye-bye. Goose egg. Whatever you want to call it. I can see them going. Now, these might come as a shocker. Well, 2 of them probably. It depends. However you look at it, this might come as a shocker. If the season ended today, which it won't, regular season will end tomorrow. You probably would have the Chiefs are for sure going to get that number 1 seed. They've clinched it. I can see them resting their starters. If I were them, I would probably rest their starters. Chiefs are 14-1. The only loss was against the Las Vegas Raiders. But I want you to note something. Ever since that game against the Carolina Panthers, they have been keeping games close. As a matter of fact, week 8, and let me check to see who that was because I honestly don't remember. Week 8. They played the New York Jets. They won that game 35-9. They have keeping things going close since then. They won 35-31 against the 5-10 Carolina Panthers. 35-30. They won 33-31 against the 5-10 Carolina Panthers. They won 35-31 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they won 27-24. Against the Broncos, they won 22-16. Dolphins, they won 33-27. And in that game, Patrick Mahomes gave up 3 interceptions, and Dolphins came up and it gave an early 10-0 lead. Early 10-0 lead. The Saints, they won 32-29. Falcons, they won 17-14. So they've been winning games, but they've been winning games by one possession game. So my hot take is playoffs is going to be completely different. I think whoever they play against in the first round will probably beat them. Chiefs are going to be a first round exit. I said it. You heard it from here first. Chiefs, first round exit. Number 2 seed, you have the Buffalo Bills. If it is right now, they will probably play against the 10-5 Cleveland Browns. Bills are probably going to win this. The Steelers play against the divisional rival, the Baltimore Ravens. In 2012 and 2001, Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl. Well, actually, 2001, I believe they won against the New York Giants. Might be 2000. I might be correct on this. I don't know. They actually, but both of those years, well, I'm going to start off. They won. Uh, do that. I'm gonna go with 2012 first. Um, they won that game against the 49ers in a comeback. Being that number 16. So they won being a wild card team in 2001 as well. They probably wouldn't have beaten Denver in 2012, to be honest with you, if it wasn't for that wild catch. My thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore makes a run. Because the years that Baltimore wins makes wins the Super Bowl, they won off of being a very low seed. And those 2 years that they lost being the higher seed with Lamar Jackson as the quarterback. Hell. So if Baltimore makes the playoffs, first they have to make it. If Baltimore makes the playoffs, I seriously think they're going to win. I can seriously see them winning, I should say. I have Baltimore beating Pittsburgh. Might be another hot take. Pittsburgh only beat them by a few points when they had third string players starting. The Titans play the Dolphins. That is another game. I see the Titans pulling this one off. So I've already said this. The Chiefs play the lowest seeding game that's still alive. So if I'm correct, Bills will still be alive. That won't be the lowest. Titans are still going to be alive. And the Ravens are still going to be alive. The Bills are probably going to play the Baltimore Ravens divisional round. I still have Baltimore. I still have Buffalo winning, but I have Baltimore. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a very close game. I wouldn't even be surprised if Baltimore comes out on top. So I have Buffalo winning, and then Chiefs. I'm sorry. Chiefs play the lowest seed, so they actually play the Ravens. I have Baltimore beating Kansas City this time. I seriously do. It's first win from Lamar Jackson against this Kansas City Chiefs team. Baltimore, Buffalo, AFC Conference Championship. Chiefs are out. Baltimore Ravens. All right. I have Buffalo going on top. But like I said earlier, I can see Baltimore going up on top and winning the Super Bowl. I can see them going up top and losing the Super Bowl, sure, but I can see them going all the way. Buffalo's who I have going all the way. But anyway, going off NFC. NFC playoffs. We have the Packers having that number 1 seed, but they can the worst they can be is number 3. The Saints play the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears have been making a run in the past few games. They do play the Packers coming up, but their last 3 games, they won. They scored at least 30-plus points. They scored at least 33 with a 36-7 run against the Houston Texans, with a 33-27 run against the Minnesota Vikings, and a 41-17 run against the Chicago Bears. But as you expect, the 11-4 New Orleans Saints team, they play the Carolina Panthers. They're probably going to win against the Carolina Panthers. And so I think I have them beating Chicago. Seattle plays the Rams. And this was a split series. Rams lost 20-9. They play the Cardinals without a Jared Goff. If Jared Goff does not play in the playoffs, they will be out. But I can also see them being out if Jared Goff does play in the playoffs. He's just awful. But I trust him over their backup. I do. I just simply do. Seattle's going to make it. Washington's football team versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here's might be a shocker. I have Washington moving on. Because that Washington defense is scary. It is scary. Now, Washington might not even make it to the playoffs, first of all, if Alex Smith does not play this game. If Alex Smith does, they're going to win, and Dallas and New York are going to lose. If Dallas or New York make it, Tampa Bay is going to move on. I'm sorry, but if Dallas wins, Dallas has been making a run, but they're not going to go past the wild card seed. So the Packers play the lowest remaining seed left. In this case, all the wildcard teams are going to be eliminated, and they play the Washington football team. Green Bay is going to move on. I don't see how Washington can even pull that off. Green Bay has been very scary this season. If Washington can utilize that running game, then maybe, but Packers are just going to blow that up. And the Packers play Seattle. The Saints play Seattle Seahawks. I have the Seahawks moving on this one over to Seattle. Green Bay plays Seattle, and I have Green Bay moving on. Green Bay plays Buffalo, and I have Buffalo. For the first time in the Super Bowl era, Buffalo wins the Super Bowl. Now, that's all I have. For now, it's Nate the Great signing out. Hey, if you guys like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button down. I have no idea where it is. It's my first time actually putting a show up on YouTube. You can also check out the Facebook page and like the Facebook page. Subscribe to, like the Facebook page. Comment to this video and share this with your friends, family members, so on and so forth. Also, you can, if you missed out on the YouTube thing, you missed out on the Facebook thing, you can also email me, sportsstatuspodcast@gmail.com. Um, and I also put things up on Anchor, so you can listen through Spotify, listen through Anchor, anything that Anchor distributes to, you can listen. So that's all I have, and peace.